This is the best of VOCM Open Line with Brian Callahan.
Waiting on the line, and by invitation, I might add, the interim consumer advocate for the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, Adrienne Ding. You're on the air.
Hi, Brian. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks. I bet that was an excellent intro there, Adrienne. Very appropriate, apropos for Open Line. So thanks for that.
Brian, I wanted to congratulate you on the new job, and obviously you're approaching 6 months. So, and you're filling the big chair with some big shoes to fill, of course. But I think you're doing a fantastic job.
I really appreciate it. I look at it as my own shoes. Not going to fill anyone's shoes, and actually it's only really been 2 months. I've filled in here and there, but yeah, officially in the term for 2 months. However, on that note, and coincidentally enough, you've been in the position for 6 months, or 5 months actually, since late January, and you're still labeled, I believe, the interim consumer advocate. What gives?
Yeah, that's right. My predecessor had stepped down in the fall and had sort of taken on a caretaker role. Yeah. And they just sort of needed to get somebody to do the work because there's a bunch of activity at the PUB this year, and there's no time for delay for some of these applications. So you just kind of want to get somebody in the job. So I have the interim role right now, and it's just rubber is on the road already.
Okay, so this is is it a fait accompli, or is there any chance? I mean, you expect to continue on full time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I have a great team. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. And as you mentioned, right, no shortage of applications on your desk, which is hard enough. I bet it can be a challenge enough for your office, especially these days, whether it's the utilities or the insurance industry. Right off the bat, what is the most pressing concern on your desk right now?
So, as you might have heard, is the Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro general rate application. Right. Was just filed recently, and so that is a very big application. The last one would have been in 2017. Mm-hmm. So this is, the first time that we're seeing the Muskrat Falls costs sort of worked in to the GRA, and it'll be a big one because it's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw some of the numbers. How the transition, the spotlight on electricity, of course, Churchill Falls, the MOU for you, the mitigation rates. I think Hydro had to contribute something like $500 million to keep the rates stable this year, out of their general revenue reduced, and so it's like I think I saw $600 million down to $100 million kind of revenue stream, given the chunk that had to be taken out to keep the rates stable to where they are right now. But of course, I think a lot of people would like a deep dive into whether their bills are truly accurate. That's certainly top of mind from what we're hearing here on the show and elsewhere. I'm sure you're not immune to hearing that stuff. And they'd like something maybe more independent, third party, as opposed to some of the utilities looking into it and that sort of thing. I mean, there are suspicions out there about power bills. There always will be. But your take on that? I mean, that's a big one and a big concern for most consumers.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think the main thing that came out loud and clear when I was first appointed is that people in the province are struggling, and things are getting more expensive. Gas prices are rising, grocery prices are rising, food bank usage is surging, and people can't really afford even incremental rises in their power bills. And so that's sort of at the forefront of my mind when I'm approaching these applications and I'm appearing before the PUB. And certainly that's what I'm hearing from people from all over the province. And so, the rising prices, obviously from 7% 2024, 2025 is concerning, and I hear that.
Yeah, and the other thing, and we're always limited, and as I said, I don't want to take you away from the good work that you're doing for the people of the province as a consumer advocate. I just wonder too, the big elephant there in the room is the MOU, the Churchill Falls talks, the negotiations. I'm wondering what role you will play if and when a deal is put out there for the public. To what extent? I mean, people obviously expect that you'll have a good go over it as well. I mean, on behalf of the consumers, is that fair enough to say? And I also wonder what you think of a referendum and whether you think that would serve the consumers and the public interest.
Yeah, Brian, I mean, that's a great question. My role is very limited to appearing before the PUB, and I can't say for certain what that'll look like in the coming months, but I am really focused on these, numerous applications before the PUB. We have the GRA, we have two very big build applications, looking at $2 billion worth of generation assets to the grid, as well as like the Newfoundland Power also just filed their 2027 capital budget application. So there's a lot on the go there, and that's where my focus is.
Yeah, I just noticed you also signed off. I think NL Hydro just had a big ask for the Bay d'Espoir area, and a lot to do with the penstocks there and the expansion and extra work that needs to be done. As they've been openly talked about an eighth unit at Bay d'Espoir. But any detail on that? I mean, I know that I saw you basically approve the hydro application on that one. Can you just specify which one that was exactly, and whether or not that'll have any impact on rates? Hydro's put in two build applications in a combined application. So one would be for the Avalon combustion turbine at the Holyrood site, right, and then the other one is adding another turbine at Bay d'Espoir. So those, collectively, we're looking at about $2 billion worth of assets, which is a very big ask. And of course, we're sort of in the stages of arranging a schedule, looking at what the process is going to look like. So it's still early for me to weigh in on it, but we do have some expert reports on it, and we certainly will look at it with a lot of scrutiny. My team here is extremely experienced in hydro and in this type of industry, and we are looking at it, we are asking questions, looking at the expert reports, and ultimately we're going to come up with a position on it and make submissions to the PUB. So definitely looking forward to that process. So going back to all of the applications, just for the average Joe or Jane that's listening, when would or when could there be another increase of any kind on power bills? Like what's before you right now, and what are the timelines for that? Apart from, I think the hydro one the 2.25 wouldn't actually kick in until next July. Is that correct?
Yeah, so Hydro's proposing increased rates for domestic customers of the 2.25%, right, and that is, that's representative of the cap increase that was put in place, right, in the 2024 rate mitigation plan. And I mean, 2.25 doesn't sound like much, of course, but like I said, it's loud and clear to me that people are struggling with any rate increase. So I guess from that perspective, going into the GRA, my position is that I'm not prepared to accept anything in terms of rate increases without full justification for those costs. So that's what we'll be looking at there. Yeah,
and I think I've heard a number like, on a $300 bill, it might be $7 or $8 extra. Is that accurate? It doesn't sound like much, but every little bit counts, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say because it compounds every year and also has to flow through Newfoundland Power's rate. So, I mean, it's hard to say, and everybody's bills are different, of course. But, yeah, it is incremental, but it does matter.
So beyond that, how do you make this transition? I mean, you had a pretty. I mean, I've watched you litigate in front of the highest courts just recently. There was some big, litigation, civil and otherwise, in Supreme Court before some tough judges in the top courts. How hard has it been to sort of transition and wind down your actual practice to, devote? And I imagine this is going to be the full-time job. Will you still be doing any of the other practice work, government work?
Well, yeah, I mean, so I had a fairly big labor and civil litigation practice, did some personal injury as well. So it's hard to give up because I enjoy it so much. But, this is something very meaningful and important to the province, and I take it very seriously. So, yeah, more or less it's a full-time job for me and my counsel. It's been certainly a transition in terms of just getting up to speed on the technical aspects, and I really credit my experts in helping me get there. My office is full of maps and sticky notes and numbers and papers all over the place.
Send me a screen grab. Send me a picture.
I definitely should. But it's been a transition, but like I said, it's been really meaningful work, and I'm really excited to really get going on it.
Fantastic. Look, obviously the lines of communication are open all the time for anything, and being the consumer advocate, ears are always going to be open for anything you have to say. I mean, we know Dennis Brown was pretty vocal and out there a lot, and would jump in, here or elsewhere, on behalf of the public whenever anything came up of interest or there was an application coming. But there's nothing this year, this July 1st, is there? Coming. I just want to be clear. It's hard to keep track sometimes.
Yeah, so that 2.25% would apply for July 1st.
This July 1st, not next year?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. I stand corrected. I thought the application was this year, but the actual cost or the increase wouldn't come into effect next year. But it actually would be this year as of July 1st. So in a few days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
As far as I understand.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. I had another note that I don't know where I saw that. Probably another news story. Look, other than that, as I mentioned, lines of communication are here. How have they been so far with the provincial government? No issues back and forth. Everybody is on the same page, and you have a good rapport so far to date. I mean, given that you were sort of put in the position by the current government.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Just wondering what the communication, the relationship with the provincial government so far, the department and that sort of thing. Like, has your communication been open and transparent and easily accessible and getting the information you need and just a good rapport out of the gate?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I am an independent office. I don't, I represent the ratepayers of the province, and that's who my client is. But in terms of working with the government and the PUB and getting the office up and running and getting the experts I need in line, that has all been pretty seamless. And, I really couldn't ask for more of the people who are behind the scenes making it all happen and making the PUB run smoothly and those proceedings to go ahead as soon as we can.
Yeah, and I appreciate this has been a very general conversation, given that you're, trying to get comfortable in the role, just given, not that it would take you that long, but just given the number of issues and subjects on your table, not the least of which, of course, is the MOU that's so coming, that people are going to want to, as I mentioned, I don't know if a referendum, do you see a referendum as being useful, as I mentioned earlier, or do you, given the complicated nature of, say, a Churchill Falls review?
Yeah, I don't know if I can comment on that, Brian. Like I said, my role is so focused on the PUB, and that takes up almost all of my brain power here. But whatever happens with the MOU and a referendum, I'm certainly open to engaging with it, and I'm happy to talk about it, as soon as we have more clarity.
Sure. Yeah. Just when it comes to consumers, that seems to be a discussion out there, like how the average person would be able to vote on something like that without all the information. And that's your job, the consumer advocate, to try to go to bat for us and maybe even explain and dumb it down a little bit for some of us who aren't necessarily in the utilities and insurance biz,
Yeah, absolutely. It's an important job, and public education is a big piece of it.
Adrian, I really appreciate the time today. Thanks for making time. I don't think we'd had a good chat yet before since you've took the role. So looking forward to becoming permanent as opposed to interim whenever that happens. And thanks again for making time today.
Thank you, Brian. Really appreciate it.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
Let's go to line number 1 and welcome to the program the NDP MHA for St. John's East Kitty Vitty, Sheila O'Leary. You're on the air.
Oh, good morning, Brian, and the sun. I'm thanking my maker today. Oh, my gosh. Thank heavens for the sun. We need it, right?
Isn't it something how we just lose it over it? And I'm in the same boat. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I'm just going to stand and stare at it, well, with my eyes closed, but I'm going to soak it up as much as I can when I get here.
Don't burn your retinas, exactly.
No.
Brian, listen, I also want to give you a shout-out and thank you and Dave for connecting us with Mary yesterday. You had a caller yesterday who had some major concerns, and she thought that she may have been in contact with our office, but as it turned out, it was the former Minister Abbott. Oh, right. So we, thanks to you, we connected with her, and we're going to do all we can to help her. Okay?
Yes,
so I just wanted to say thanks for that.
Thanks for people who didn't hear. Yeah, it was an elderly woman downtown living, I think Colonial Street. Was that the one?
Yes,
yeah.
That's right.
And she's,
Mary.
of course, some serious health issues.
Yeah, so she's got some major health issues happening and eviction notice. So, again, these are I will tell you, Brian, we are flooded with these kind of issues on an ongoing basis in our constituent office about people who are getting evicted, people who can't afford. This is the ongoing theme. It's ridiculous, and that's why we have to task government. That's our role. So
crisis on many fronts, Sheila. There's no question.
And there's so many wonderful topics, so many big topics kind of going on right now. But Brian, I wanted to call in to talk about the Closing the Gaps Gender Pay Inequity in Atlantic Canada report. I don't know if you saw that release that was put out
I did.
The report that came.
It puts us somewhere, I think, second largest gap in Canada, maybe?
Yeah, second highest pay gap. It's very concerning. Newfoundland and Labrador has the second highest pay gap in the country. And so, I had the opportunity to sit in actually on a webinar yesterday to kind of get into the details of it. Of course, reading the report first and foremost, but speaking with other people who are heavily involved in this advocacy in the Atlantic region. And you know what? It's extremely concerning, especially for our province, who is in really, like, can you imagine the second highest pay gap? So if I can speak to that a little bit, Brian, I'll give you a couple of the highlights and stuff of that report.
Yes,
if
absolutely.
You're,
go right ahead,
if you're
Sheila.
Open to it.
The floor is yours.
Yeah. So the average woman in Newfoundland makes 76 cents for each dollar that the average man makes. So 76 cents per dollar. And of course, this is a major issue. We're talking about pay inequity, and we've been talking about it, and we've been hearing about the pay equity legislation for some time. But I'll just give you a little background. So in 1988, the government negotiated a healthcare pay equity with NAPE, which was kind of a watershed moment in 1988, and that was great to start getting that conversation going, because of course we know this pay inequity has been on the docket for a long time. And then in 2017, of course, our former MHA, Jerry Rogers with the NDP, on Women's Day, she put forward a motion in 2017. And there was an intergovernmental group set up in 2018 to try to look at this issue and try to address the gender pay inequity. And unfortunately, between 2018 and 2021, there was no meetings during this period. And then at 2022, the St. John's Status of Women Centre and many other organizations have been heavily involved in this issue for many, many years. The legislation kind of came out with the former Liberal government, but there was no consult. It was kind of a knee-jerk kind of tabling of a legislation, no consult with some of the stakeholders and the organizations that have been working on it. And, of course, the language, it lacked the language, the scope, and the oversight. So it wasn't just about tabling a legislation. First of all, it was only for the public sector, not the private sector. And, again, it's one thing to enact legislation, but if you don't actually meet on it and have legislation and oversight, like we do with our auditor generals and all the rest, that do the oversight to make sure that we're on track, then it's kind of a moot point. It's just going to sit there. So, there's been a history that, and again, as a fairly new MHA, and, I've been watching this for some time, but now I'm getting into the weeds of how this has kind of been unfolding. It is very, very concerning, and that we in our province are in this particular state right now. I also wanted to mention that, when we were in the legislature, I did question Minister Leila Evans, that was on March 5th in the legislature, about this and about, how we're going to, address pay equity legislation, because it's not sufficient, quite obviously, and that's what the report is telling us. And she certainly responded that, she knows that I'm a strong advocate, and certainly she is as well. And they wanted that she was going to actively review the pay equity issue and take steps to go there. So I'm really looking forward to government sinking their teeth into this one.
Yeah, the delays, as you said, Jerry Rogers back in 2017, and there was a 5-year gap, and then, as you said, the Liberals passed the legislation, I think it was in November of that 2022 or something. And then there was just, and that's, the advocacy efforts, whether it was the St. John's Status of Women or the opposition, the PC, obviously, the NDP leading the way on this. but it just seems to have gotten lost in the weeds. It does mandate pay equity for the public sector and pay transparency reporting for both public and private sectors, but I have yet to see any compliments or anyone sing the praises of it, as opposed as you are now pointing out the fact that we're still lagging, sorely lagging, second highest gap in the country. What do you attribute what do you attribute it overall to, Sheila?
Well, again, the lack of proper language, the scope, and the oversight, those are the three things that are extremely important. But again, nothing about us without us. I mean, there was no consultation when that legislation came forward. There was no meeting of that intergovernmental group and such like that.
There was an Engage NL consultation process, was there not? I thought there was, on the website, I think... what was it called? I can't remember what it was. But, they have the Engage NL site, Pay Equity and Pay Transparency Consultations. That was, I thought, I can't remember the date of it, but I remember seeing the link because I get them regularly in my email.
Right.
That was a level of consultation. Did that ever come to anything or fruition, or was that ever used in any kind of furthering of that legislation?
Not to my knowledge. It really has not been even a point of discussion, honestly.
Yeah,
so that's why I wanted to bring it up on International Women's Day, certainly in the legislature. But look, the weekly pay wage gap. Okay, so the weekly wage gap for women in Newfoundland and Labrador is $355. That's the average woman in Newfoundland makes $355 less per week than the average man, or 24% less. It's just like we're in 2026. This is it's really quite unbelievable that for the same kind of work, for the same labor, and of course we're talking about women who oftentimes are the caretakers in the home front. So then we're talking about other gaps that happen. The report talks about how the more education a woman has, the smaller the pay gap. There is a wider gender pay gap in male-dominated occupations. And even in the women-dominated occupations, there's still a pay gap, still persists, as per the report. And one other layer that I think is extremely important to note as well, too, is that racialized women and Indigenous women face even higher pay gaps. So there's an extra layer there as well.
So is it political will, or is it trying to find a way to fund it? All the answers to your questions are money. Obviously filling a pay gap requires more pay for workers, and where is the gap here? Who's not anteing up?
Well, the reality is, yes, everything comes down to political will, Brian. You know that. Yeah. I mean, we can always find money for all kinds of different projects, all kinds of investments in all kinds of industry and all kinds of different things. But this is really an opportunity for the government of Newfoundland and Labrador to really step up and really take this seriously, because it's an embarrassment. It's an absolute embarrassment that we in 2026 are still at that stage now where we're seeing this gender pay inequity. In Atlantic Canada, there's a report, but right across the country to be the second highest pay gap. It just doesn't make any sense. So it's a lot of work that needs to be done. I want to give a huge shout out to the many organizations, obviously, that have been doing the work on this, and certainly to former MHA Jerry Rogers, who was the one who really brought it to the table. The legislation came forward, but unfortunately it just went flat. And it doesn't have the meat that we need in order to make sure. And the only other thing as well, too, that was discussed, right, in this process is that, well, we have the human rights aspect, right, for people, but that's only for individual workers, and that's complaint-based. So there's no protection for people who are really, experiencing these wage gaps, and it's inequity, and it is a human rights issue. There's no doubt about it.
Sheila, is this going to be just a lot of back and forth debate in the House of Assembly in the fall, or do you expect some movement?
Oh, well, I can guarantee you I'm a dog with a bone on this one. This is something that we should not be dealing with in this day and age. And you know what? It is, I'm not saying that it's a very simple task, but we have to have the political will to do it, and to do it properly, not to just slap something out there. We really need to have the oversight, and there's going to be certainly a lot more conversation about this. We had a wonderful wonderful webinar yesterday, and Bridget Clark, who's the advocacy coordinator for St. John's Status and Women's Center, she was on and she very articulate, talking about the long, lengthy advocacy in this area. People from Moncton, right across the Atlantic province. And, there's a number of things that we can do, but, secrecy around wages, dealing with the private sector aspect of it, making sure that we have, a committee that actually has the oversight and continues to look at this. Brian, this is something I'm going to continue to advocate for. Yeah,
getting paid for what you feel you're worth is, pretty basic request and ask. And I get a couple of emails here asking where are the numbers coming from that you're mentioning. This is coming from the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, and that's a report that they put out just this week called Closing the Gaps, Gender Pay Equity in Atlantic Canada. So anybody wants to have a look at that and the stats and where it all comes from, Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, right there. Sheila, thanks for the call. Look forward to hearing more about this in the fall or even during the summer.
Wonderful.
It doesn't go away. So, gaps in pay, no matter what people, will say, who's worth what. How much you're worth and when or whether or not the gap is acceptable or, behind the times. Just had a quick note in my ear. Have you heard anything what's going on with the Dominion down in Kitty in your district?
I haven't heard a peep about it. I tell you, there's been so many issues on the table here recently, Brian. My gosh, it's been a lot. But, St. John's East Kitty district, I will tell you, is hopping. There's so many issues going on right now, but I will certainly do an inquiry, and thanks for giving me the poke on that one.
Yeah, hard to keep a good secret in this city. It's a small town, so, when there's anything... I haven't heard ruminations or anything about it. So, if you hear anything, we're all ears.
All right, perfect. Well, listen, thanks so much.
Thanks, Sheila.
I really appreciate it.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
Let's go right to line number 4. And Upal Nandi, Communications Manager with Multicultural Festival NL. And, of course, this being on the eve of Canadian Multicultural Day. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
How are you, and how excited are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. How are you guys?
So tell us all about it. The Tombola Multicultural Festival events coming up, of course, this weekend as well, in conjunction with the Multiculturalism Day. You're not busy, I imagine. Pretty busy, I would say.
Yeah. So actually, I am actually delighted to talk about the Canadian Multiculturalism Day celebration that Tombola Multicultural Festival NL will host on Saturday, June 27th.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
So what's on the agenda?
It's actually, we have 2 programs. One is multicultural soccer match is in morning, and in evening there is a multicultural event. So that I am describing first regarding the soccer match actually. So, first of all, I would like to say that there is a Canadian Multiculturalism Day special occasion that to celebrate the diversity, inclusion, and cultural features in the fine Canada. It recognizes the valuable contribution to people from all cultural backgrounds and remind us that the different make our community stronger. Here in Newfoundland and Labrador, we are proud to be celebrated and many cultures and that now called the province home. So now I'm just describing how we Tombola going to celebrate this day. First of all, the soccer match, So our celebration will begin with the friendly multicultural soccer match from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Fortis Canada Games Complex.
Oh, that's the Fortis site, right.
Yeah. The match will feature players representing more than 20 countries, including newcomers, international students, immigrants, and members of the local community. Countries from Asia, Africa, Europe, North America, and South America will all be represented and creating a truly international atmosphere, right?
That's going to be fantastic, especially in light of the World Cup going on at the same time. It's great.
Yeah, of course. So this is a match is more than a soccer match. Soccer is known as a world game because it brings people together regardless of the language, culture, religion, or nationality with the excitement of the FIFA World Cup 2026, inspiring fans around the globe as a friendly match celebrating the same spirit of unity. And I would say, while every people proudly represent their country of origin, everyone will play with one shared purpose, building friendships, promoting inclusion, and the strange work of the community here in Newfoundland and Labrador. And I must say, the match is not about winning or losing. It is about respect, teamwork, healthy living, and celebrating the diversity that makes Canada such a welcoming country.
Absolutely.
And, we invite everyone to come out and cheer for the players, meet people from different cultures, and enjoy the exciting afternoon of the community soccer. So this admission is fully free for everyone. So everyone is invited from our side.
And tomorrow's supposed to be a nice day as well. Just pretty much picture perfect like today. It's going to be a little cloudy in the morning, but it should be great for game time. What kind of, just give me an idea, if you can, Upal, just the number of countries that are represented, say, through right now, like the number of countries that are in the World Cup, for example. How many of those countries will be represented in this game tomorrow? Do you have any idea?
So that is, so I have to say this is the country, like the FIFA World Cup has created incredible excitement among the newcomers in St. Joseph, because our city is home of the people from many different countries, So every match feels like a global celebration. Families and friends proudly support the country. You will see the Brazilian fans cheering the Brazil, Argentina supporting Argentina, Portuguese community back in Portuguese, English fans supporting England, French supporters cheering the France, and the fans from Morocco, Nigeria, Japan, South Korea, Croatia, Colombia, Mexico, Ghana, Iran, and many other countries following this game with great passion. And they are from all the country, and they will play together, and that's our celebration. And at the same time, I would say there is also been this tremendous support for Team Canada. This is in World Cup history. Canada made a history that they are now in knockout stage.
Right.
So many newcomers now call Canada as their home, so they are proudly support Canada while also celebrating their country of origin. That makes the World Cup very special here, because it brings together different cultures toward one shared love of soccer.
That's fantastic. So everybody will sort of be wearing their own country's hearts on their sleeves tomorrow for that match, but on Sunday, it's going to be all for Canada, right?
Yes. So we have another event. We had another event in the evening.
Yeah.
So this event will continue, start from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the St. John's Farmers Market with our multicultural community market, international fashion show, and variety concert. So visitor will enjoy a vibrant multicultural workplace featuring more than 40 kinds of foods and craft vendors represented over from 30 countries.
Yeah.
And it will be a wonderful opportunity to experience authentic international cuisine, shop for the handmade culture products, and learn about the tradition from around the world. And one of the highlights of the evening will be the international fashion show, where the participants will proudly showcase their tradition clothing, celebrating the beauty, history, and identity of their culture. And the evening will also feature an exciting cultural concert with performance from around the world, including of Indian folk dance, Kenyan culture fusion, Newfoundland tap dance, Irish and Newfoundland stave dancing, Inuit traditional drumming and songs, Brazilian music, Nepalese folk song, Latin American salsa and bachata, Ugandan traditional music, Burundian dance, African drumming, Chinese Mungzin music, and many other cultural performances will be held in tomorrow evening.
Incredible. Just a microcosm of the kaleidoscope of mixing of cultures in this province. We've come such a long way, and it's just fantastic to have that kind of exposure and that kind of celebration of that event and all the different cultures that we welcome here in this province. It is fantastic. I got to get going to the break. The best place for people to update themselves and find out where everything's happening, of course, the game tomorrow, the farmers market tomorrow night, but at Tombolo Multicultural Festival.ca, best place?
So our website is Tombolo Multicultural Festival NL.ca.
Got it.
That is the website of our organization. We have a Facebook page. It's Tombolo Multicultural Festival NL Facebook page, and our program will be held in Farmers Market, as I mentioned before.
Yeah. It'll be hard to miss that tomorrow night at the Farmers Market. That's going to be fantastic.
Yes.
I really appreciate this, Upal, the time that you've given to play this up tomorrow and give us a snapshot. That's going to be a place to be tomorrow. Either for the soccer game is going to be great, and then for the Farmers Market tomorrow night. Good luck with everything.
Sure. Thank you so much, and you all are invited to go there.
Oh yes, I fit it into my schedule. I'll be there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
Right to line number 6, and Paul French with Rovers Search and Rescue. You're on the air.
Brian, how are you?
Morning, Paul. How are you? Good. Thanks for asking.
Brian, just calling in this morning. Heard you and Russell this morning discuss Jerry Lynn being off, maybe taking in the trails this weekend, and I was looking at the forecast and can't help but see how great it will be to get outdoors this weekend and whatnot. And with the kids being out of school and whatnot, it's been a busy few weeks this last couple of weeks for our search and rescue team, and I know others across the province.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to remind folks that, when they're heading out, to be adventure smart, and that includes following the 3 T's, so trip planning, training, and taking the essentials. Anybody looking for search and rescue prevention information or how to be safe in the outdoors, they can visit www.adventuresmart.ca. And again, all of the key messaging focused around trip planning, training, taking the essentials. We've had a number of calls now on the East Coast Trail, varying different types of calls. And, it's actually great to see the use of the trail and the uptake, people getting outdoors and being active and whatnot. But it's really important that when we do so, we're prepared to do so. So we're telling someone where we're going, when we're going to be back. These aren't last minute decisions and these types of things where you're going alone and whatnot. Also, when you're on the trail, you have the right equipment. Everybody relies on their cell phone nowadays, and although that technology is, ever more increasing, still not much use on the East Coast Trail, let me tell you, in most places. So ensuring that you have some sort of communication device or you're able to check in different periods and those sorts of things. And also that you have the training. And Brian, that doesn't mean, we want to see people with a wallet or
courses and stuff. No, the basics.
You don't want a mitt full of certificates, but it just means that, say if you're going on a week in the East Coast Trail, you understand how to navigate. You understand, what trail you're going on and what to expect, and how intense it might be, or if you have a water purification tablets or a lifestyle or something like that, you know how to use it. You use that at home before you wait to get on the trail and say, "Oh, I must try this out now."
You just never know, right? I mean, look, we don't plan for longer trips than we're probably supposed to, but things can happen. And like Dave just said in my ear, footwear. It seems like a simple thing, right? It's like, oh, I got my comfortable sneakers on. Well, okay, but if you're doing the East Coast Trail, for example, maybe sneakers, as comfortable as they may not be the best to traverse that kind of a path, right? Just simple stuff like that. And like you said, a lot of people say, oh, I got my cell phone. Well, that's good, but as you said, the blackout, the dark areas, down areas for cell phones are many more than there are where you can actually get a signal. So these kind of reminders, they may seem people, it, I don't need to tell you, Paul, people will roll their eyes at the simple, be careful, plan ahead and all the rest of it. But boy, until you're in that position, and it happens to a lot of people who just don't expect to be there, right?
Yeah, 100%. And it's things happen, Brian, and no matter how much we prepare, right, stuff happens, and it happens every day. But it's all in how you're able to deal with the situation. So I'm not saying by being adventure smart and following these 3 T's that nothing's ever going to happen to anybody. You're going on the East Coast Trail, you're going in the outdoors. Eventually, something's bound to happen, but it just means that you're better prepared to handle the situation, right?
And you've seen it all. Frustration can be real. People just can take into consideration the work that you guys have to do, the people who have to come out and look for you. That might be also fair to have that consideration too, and whether or not, you want to put people in that position. But just the safety, common sense stuff, hey?
For sure, Brian, and like I said, our particular group here, Rovers Search and Rescue, there's 33 teams on the island, Newfoundland, Labrador, rather. We're 82 members in our team. They're all volunteer, and listen, we're happy to answer the call whenever it comes in, and we will be there. There's no charge for search and rescue services in Canada, and so we're there if anybody needs us. But we don't want to be out there. We want everybody to be safe and enjoy, safely out in the outdoors. And so, Brian, I know you're pushed for time here, and you're trying to close out the show. So,
but it's important.
I'll leave
stuff.
it there.
Yep.
It is, and just happy to get a shout out there. And again, be adventure smart, trip plan, train, and take the essentials. Can't say it enough.
Yep, Paul. I hope you have a very quiet weekend, if you know what I mean. So, thanks for the call today.
If we get any calls now, Brian, it's your fault.
Oh, jeez. Great. Lay it out on me. That's just what I needed before the end of the show. Okay, I said it. I jinxed it. No, but yeah, look, it's serious stuff. I appreciate that. And like I said, ultimately, if you're not too busy on those trails, then things are going good. So, yeah,
absolutely.
The important message is taken. Well taken. Yeah, thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
You too, sir.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
Right to line number 1. And Gerald, you're on the air.
Good afternoon to you, sir. I'm a first-time caller.
Still morning here. Where are you at?
Oh, okay. Good morning. I'm in St. John's, sir.
I want to be in your world, though. Go for it.
Yeah. Okay. I got an email there last night and was concerning the food fishery in Carteret. And this is not going to be no food fishery this year for anybody. And nobody is allowed to put out the boats, and they're not allowed to go back about picking. They're not allowed to do nothing the year because the food fishery shut down. I'd like to know if that was a rumor or somebody just getting on. But it is from the DFO, that what I got, and it don't sound very good.
I'd be wary. There is a food fishery. The discussion and the controversy is over the expansion of it for some parts of the island, the East Coast, everywhere except the South and West Coast, basically. To my knowledge, and I haven't seen that, you might want to be wary of even opening that email or doing anything with it, because it may not be what it seems to be. I mean, there's a lot of spam. I haven't seen it, and I don't want you to send it to me because then I could be exposed to whatever it might be. We got to be careful with emails and phishing scams and all this kind of stuff these days. Do you have the address of the email right in front of you, like the URL at the top?
I got it. It's on my phone, and I'm talking to you on my phone.
Oh, okay.
Through my hearing aids.
Okay,
I'm talking to you through my hearing aids.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I'll tell you that if it says that there's no food fishery this year, then it is not accurate.
Yeah, okay, because my brother's leaving tomorrow morning, go down to Labrador and go fishing, go to his cabin, but they said they're not allowed to go out in the boat. Nobody's allowed in the boat. And I'd like to know if that's true. People could text me because you know who I am and everything like that, because I'd like to know for sure before you leave tomorrow morning.
Yeah, no, I mean, if we're talking about the food fishery, now the 2J cod fishery is another story altogether. There's issues over that, how the adjacency issue, and how Labrador companies are upset that they didn't get a bigger share, or any share in some cases, of the recent increase in quota, from almost doubling of quota, really, for the province. I don't know if that is what, but you're talking specifically about just going out in the dory or out in the punt and getting a few fish, right, for food?
Well, I'm talking
or
about...
commercial.
I'm talking about getting salmon. We cannot get no salmon here because there's no tags for Labrador. For Carteret, Labrador, there's no tags, and nobody is allowed to go in the boats and go fishing for trout or char or anything because the fishery is closed down for this year.
Well, look, there's a recreational Atlantic salmon fishery in the province. It's pretty highly regulated, and it's usually run from it's open now, from what I understand, from June till the middle of June till the middle of September. But, my understanding is that, there's fly fishing and there's salmon fishing available. It's the fishery is open. It's not shut down either. So you just have to be careful where you're getting and watch the rules on the river. Like there's signs on the river. The guardians are there. And you just have to make sure where you are and your bag limits and the catch and release, limited to 3 fish per day in most cases. on most scheduled rivers, and they have to be a salmon scheduled river, of course. I thought you were talking about the cod food fishery there for a moment. Sorry.
No, we fish with our nets. See?
Yep.
We could get few salmon a day. I'm not saying how many, but we could get a few salmon a day with our food fishery and trout fishing, char fishery. But this year we cannot go fishing because everything is closed down.
Yeah, when you say everything is closed down, that's pretty broad and sweeping. So I'm not sure everything is. I mean, as I said, there are restrictions on gear. You know, you got to have your license. It's catch and release, and the retention, as I said, as far as I know. Well, it depends on the class of river you're on too. You know, it's usually it could be a total of 2 salmon for the season, in most cases. 2 whole salmon. Yeah. And only 1 actually on a class 2 river, and a class 0 where either it's just not allowed at all. But I would have to know exactly where he's fishing. But as far as I know, it's not shut down. There are restrictions, as there always are on salmon fishing.
Well, anyway, we're out fishing in Cartwright and other places along the coast where we fish every year for our food fishery for the winter and stuff like that. And now this year, first time ever, they said it's closed down. I'd like to know if that's a rumor or is it true. I'd like for somebody to call me or email me, whatever it may be.
Well, if it's commercial, yes, it is restricted, and in most places it's shut down. That has been happening for a few years to conserve stocks. But as far as just getting your average salmon, depends on where you're fishing it and what your license allows you to do. But and so the specifics might be a little bit different. And again, there was some confusion off the top when you said the food fishery. I just assumed you were talking about the recreational, or some people call it the residential food fishery for cod. But salmon is a little tanglier. It depends on where you are, the river class, your license, and there is salmon angling available. The season is open. It just depends on where you are and what you got.
Yeah, we get our tags from the Nunatunnabut. That's where we get our tags from.
Oh, the community council.
We are,
okay.
We get them from the Nunatunnabut council. And anyway,
yep.
And it's different altogether compared to some people. Like some places in Newfoundland, I could fish to a certain spot here in Newfoundland and get a little bit more fish than what you can get. And stuff like that, right?
No, absolutely. If you add the indigenous element to it, which I wasn't aware again, right? I'm just that would be managed through the communal food, social, and ceremonial fisheries. But that's a whole kettle of wax salter. Gerald, I got to get off to the break. But look, we can get a guy from DFO to clarify. I just, you'd want to be careful of that email and just ask specifically with regard to, where they want to fish and when, and that should clear things up for you. I got to run off to the break though. So
thank you much.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line with Brian Callahan.
So, while the Premier and other officials in the government remain, I'd say, relatively silent on the controversy regarding timelines for the Innu in Labrador, others who know what they're talking about, the experts will say, are not staying so silent. In fact, yesterday, a group of 8 anthropologists and archaeologists from MUN expressed their support for the Innu timelines in a letter addressed to Innu leadership, and calling on government to, quote, clarify their basis for the more limited 300-year history as opposed to the thousands of years claimed by the experts. And the letter goes on to say they're deeply concerned about all of this, while also referencing the support of a renowned doctor of anthropology and archaeology at the Smithsonian Institute of all places in Washington, D.C., and that is Dr. Stephen Loring. Good morning to the shows, Dr. Loring.
Good morning. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, so I was going to try to list off your title here, and I'm going to do it and try not to mess it up. So you're the Arctic archaeologist and museum anthropologist with the Arctic Studies Center at the Smithsonian. Is that just about right?
That's just about right. I think you got it right on.
Woo. Okay, I win, bet, Dave. So look, getting on a more serious note, you've worked on projects in Labrador for more than half a century, as referenced in the letter from the MUN profs to the Innu leadership and copied to the provincial government. And you've called the government's view on this, I think the words you used were narrow, outdated, disappointing. Can you elaborate?
Disappointing, I guess, is the word I would appropriate.
Sure.
Archaeologists, it's an arcane field. We have ways of thinking. We've been trained to interpret the evidence that we see and make sense of it. And there's just a disagreement. Well, and most of the archaeologists, working in the province and adjacent areas, recognize that the Innu today have cultural antecedents that stretch back thousands of years in Labrador. And there's a move by some provincial archaeologists to interpret evidence to the contrary. And it gets complicated and it gets very academic. But I think most archaeologists are of the opinion that the Innu do have a long history in the province. And what's most disconcerting about this is that the position that some people in government have taken is that it threatens to dispossess Innu from their history and culture and position people in some academic circles as having a more valued interpretation of history that flies in the face of oral history and place names and the kind of indigenous knowledge that the Innu possess about their tenure in Labrador.
What's the best evidence that we have of their existence beyond those 300 years? I mean, are we talking, for people who aren't in the realm of anthropology and archaeology and, digging up things that might be able to be dated to certain times? It's more than about that, is it not?
Well, that's where the argument is sort of being based on,
right.
And different archaeologists interpret the evidence in different ways, and I think it sounds like from this letter that you referenced from the memorial academics as well as the colleagues I work, we interpret the evidence, the stone tools that we find, the radiocarbon dates, the structures that people left behind as evidence of cultural continuity, and that. One of the important things to think about with the Innu is that prior to contact, they had a very ephemeral mark on the landscape, and so their sites are often very difficult to locate. But that doesn't mean that they're not there or that we just haven't found some of them.
So, okay. So what would be your best guess? If we're talking, the argument here now, and it's very broad in general, just talking about, the 300 sort of cutoff roughly, as opposed to what the Innu insist are thousands of years. Are we talking thousands or are we talking 1,500? Like, how closely can we pinpoint the existence? Like, where are we talking in our age?
I'm not quite sure your question is. We may not have found sites from this little gap in the archaeological record, but there are sites from adjacent Quebec, both on the Quebec North Shore and in the interior of northern Quebec, Labrador, on the George River, that date to exactly the period that some of the provincial archaeologists are arguing there's not evidence for. There is evidence for. I just think they're being very selective in their interpretation of the sites that they have on record.
Yeah, and I've seen other, anecdotal comments and evidence that talks about, the existence of Vikings, say, landing at Lansom Meadows and having evidence that they, have recorded as well for themselves. Can we say, and we're only talking about the Innu here, but what about other indigenous groups, descents that have been in Labrador? We're only talking about the Innu, but would the Innu have been the earliest indigenous records of Labrador, or where do the Inuit, for example, fall into this conversation?
Labrador has a fascinating culture history of overlapping and alternating cultural expressions, so that the First Nations Indigenous peoples move into Labrador about 8,000 years ago with the disappearance of the glacial ice. The Inuit, the modern Inuit, only arrived in Labrador around 1300 AD. There were some earlier Paleo-Eskimo peoples out of Siberia that were here 4,000 years ago. But but Labrador is such a fascinating history of cultural exchange and interaction through time of these different peoples. But you know, I think the majority of archaeologists that work in the province see a direct contact between the Innu people and their ancestors stretching back at least 2,000 years. And then there's a group of us that say, no, that connection extends way into the past, you know, for the whole 8,000 years of human occupation in Labrador. But there's complete agreement among most archaeologists that Innu and their ancestors were in Labrador for 2,000 years, if not 4,000, 6,000, 8,000 years.
Sorry, you tailed off there at the end. Just the last comment you made about the 2,000 versus 4,000, 6,000?
Just that First Nations peoples, you know, have been in Labrador since the disappearance of the glacial ice, and that's thousands of years of history and a huge area to look for sites, and we have relatively few sites for that whole range of time, but nevertheless there is a story to be told there is evidence for long-term occupation.
Yeah, look, I really appreciate your contribution to this, because we need, you know, all types of expertise, not just the expertise here in the island, the provincial government, but people need to weigh in with, you know, the kind of expertise that you have yourself, you know, given your work in Labrador over the years. Have you been here? When was the last time you have been here?
It's actually been 2 years, I think, which is the longest spell I've been away from Labrador. I pretty much was for many years just coming up every summer to do field work, but the last couple of years been trying to catch up on back work. Yeah,
so if anyone comes up to me today and say, look, I listened to that conversation, I'm just trying to get a handle on when overall Dr. Loring believes the Innu were first the best documented records of them being, their existence in Labrador, what would you say?
What's the best evidence?
Yeah, the best evidence that gives us the best timeline.
I'm not quite sure how to answer that. You know, there's academic papers that we've all written, you know, that discuss this.
Yeah, I guess. Sorry, go ahead.
Many of which have been published in the Provincial Archaeology Annual Review, which is a very nice, you know, compilation of the fieldwork that gets done in the province.
Yeah, I guess the only question, just for the layperson, they're saying, okay, so what is your best bet on the actual accurate timelines? If it's not 300 years, what would you say it should be referred to as Innu existence in Labrador?
I would say that the Innu direct cultural connections stretch back almost 8,000 years uninterrupted.
There it is. Okay, that's and that's not just, you know, I just want that one headline, but the fact that it's coming from you down at the Smithsonian, and I think of the Smithsonian, I think of Night at the Museum, and I wanted to ask you if the Raiders if the lost Ark of the Covenant is still being stored there. And I say that tongue in cheek.
Well, yeah, no. We have a huge museum storage area, and Lord only knows what's in those back nooks and crannies.
So it's true when they show at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark the entire big old warehouse with things that just have numbers on them. They could be all important, but they're just another number in the warehouse, right?
We have a variation of that place, but it's a little more orderly now. That was set in the 1940s, but anyway.
Dr. Loring, I appreciate your contribution to this. You know, the more information we have, you know, knowledge is power. So I really appreciate the time today and the time difference as well. But thanks for making time for the program. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you for your interest, and it's a very important issue.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
First, we're going to go to line number 8, and the Liberal MHA for Gander, Bettina Ford, you're on the air.
Hey, good morning. That was wonderful listening to those stories.
I really glad you enjoyed it. You know, it was just something, Dave and I go way back, David Carver, and anybody who's ever been to a concert in this province in the last 30, 40 years, David has a hand in it. You know, and so it was great that he happened to be in the city today, and so we worked it out that he could drop in, and I'm really glad something a little bit different, you know, Bettina, just to try to shake up a beautiful Friday here, and there's a lot of heavy news on the go, so I thought that might be well worth it. And he had some great words there for Big Tom, of course. And of course, and the work his family does with the McDonald Drive Junior High with his sister and the award there, so the Memorial Award. So I appreciate that. And you're talking about equally good and positive things, activeness, are you not?
Well, I am, and absolutely. Activeness and well-being and recreation is really positive and welcome. But I'm really calling, Brian, more with an update and to share some information about the Active NL Fund.
Right.
And the reason is I've been hearing from a lot of community organizations in my district and my colleagues who've been hearing from organizations across Newfoundland and Labrador about the Active NL Fund and the delays this year. So in case you're not aware, the fund, it's around $2.5 million, and it's dedicated to initiatives that are aimed at increasing physical activity, sport, active recreation, healthy eating. So it's a program that really impacts children, families, seniors, and it's a program that primarily is accessed by volunteer-led organizations. So the fund is delayed, and I wanted to call and share some information, what we know, for the information of people who've come to rely on the program.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. So what are where are these coming? Is it just the town of Gander that's seeing this kind of gap, or what? What is the issue with the funding in particular? What has happened here? I thought... I'm familiar with it myself, as you said, right? It's supposed to be deliver and purchase, upgrade, any active living infrastructure, equipment, initiatives, those sorts of things. So what are you understanding is the issue here?
Yeah, so it is province-wide, and normally the program opens up in like last year, for example, the program, it's a provincial government program. It opened up in January last year with a deadline for March. And applications historically have opened up during the winter, which allowed organizations to plan, secure cost estimates, approvals, all of that to be ready for summer programming. It came to our attention when we were going through the budget process that the applications had not been opened up. So that was in May. So in May, during the budget process and estimates, I asked about the program and what the status was. So at that time, we were told that the department was re-evaluating the program.
What's your understanding of what that might mean?
Well, at that time, I wasn't quite sure, to be honest with you. There was talk that government wanting to make sure that the program aligned with their goals and the need for an active living plan to be developed. But since estimates, I understand that the active living plan was well underway in 2024. So in fact, there's a report available on consultations that the department hosted in 2024, and that was with recreation and active living stakeholders to talk about active living priorities for a 5-year period. So I'm not quite sure what the delay is, but regardless, the concern is, I guess my concerns are twofold. One is, will the program even continue? We're here now, this beautiful sunny day, school has ended, recreation groups are getting ready to start their programming. So will it even be open now in time for organizations to apply and go through the approval process? And it could be, if government is choosing to shift its priorities to recreation programs in the fall or during winter. Recreation happens all year round. But it's also the lack of communication and transparency with community groups who really have come to rely on the grants. So I've heard from volunteers, for example, who are refreshing the website every day for the past 5 months to figure out if their program might be funded. So
that's a hard way.
I guess if I can.
Yeah, that's a hard way to be relying on whether or not you're getting it or not, just without any timeline.
Well, this is it, and it's why I wanted to call and just share what we've been able to find out, like I said, in questions to the minister through the estimates process. Some of the examples I'll give just for your listeners to see how this fund really impacts communities.
If you don't mind me asking just quickly, look, I'm looking at the list from 25-26, and you got the Gander Bay Recreation Committee, it's almost more than $6,000 for fencing upgrades, Gander Disc Golf, about a total, like for about $17,000 in total for maintenance of equipment and the foundation, Gander Minor Softball Association, fast pitch equipment, another $1,000 there. It's spread out pretty good. That was last year's thing. Of course, I don't see any list for this year.
No, and there is no list for this year because right now on the website it says that the applications for last year are closed.
Right.
And please check back for applications for this year. So those are some great examples. But, we're talking about recreation committees who do playground infrastructure for children. I've heard from a school, not in my district, but in another district, a school planning to build a greenhouse over the summer for food security programming for teenagers going into next year. It could be trail development. It could be trail development with a focus on accessibility for seniors is another project I heard about. Youth camps who are seeking water safety equipment like personal flotation vests. And it could be a sporting organization where $500 for bats and balls means the difference of whether or not that program can proceed. So as I continue to hear from organizations, they're anxious, right? The volunteer leaders, again, primarily who administer a lot of these programs for the communities that they serve.
There's absolutely a concern and a thought out there, not a concern, I should say, just an understanding that the government is reviewing everything. You get that feeling, obviously, in the interest of efficiency, and all you need to do are look at some of the decisions that have been made without, I would argue, as much consultation and as transparency and openness that the government promised last fall before they were elected. But nonetheless, look, we can certainly make our inquiries here and try to get a more firm answer on, to what extent it will be rejigged, if they're relooking at some of the amounts in the fund. But you've made your own inquiries, I assume, have you? And to no real specific answers yet?
Well, again, when we asked during estimates, the minister had said that they were waiting on completing an active living plan. But again, from my research, that was well underway in 2024. And I do respect any government's right to evaluate programs. My issue here, and I think you hit it as my thinking is, the communication side of it. And communication is key. It's the difference between confusion and clarity. And I think that's what's missing here. I spent a long time working with volunteer organizations, and I know how much responsibility they have when it comes to applying for funding, putting together the applications, administering the funding, the governance of it, and all of those things, the work that they put into communities. So just out of respect for those volunteer organizations, I very much would like to see a specific time being offered. If there's a shift in priorities, I think we can look and see that the program has been serving summer programming. And here we are now at the end of June. So I am concerned for organizations who may be counting because they've come to rely on this program that's run for many years to help sustain their recreation and active living programs. Just out of interest, last year there were 954 applications, and we found out in estimates that 550 of those projects were approved for funding. So that impacts thousands of youth, seniors, and families across Newfoundland and Labrador.
And you're speaking my language, Bettina. The clarity comes with communication. Like, just give us the information that we're entitled to, so we can have an idea where it's going, just for clarity and for planning purposes. All these organizations, without that certainty, it just backlogs everything and bottlenecks it, right? Well, I've got to get off to my break, but I appreciate the call. And again, if you can get any more clarity and uncertainty, and we'll put out the call. We haven't gotten a lot of response from government ministers these days when we ask for some clarity and communication. Press releases and news releases seem to be the order of the day lately, but maybe we can get a live breathing minister on the air on this one. We live in hope.
Well, conversations are really important.
Absolutely agreed. Thanks very much, Bettina. Appreciate the call.
Thank you.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
Let's welcome into the studio my good friend, longtime friend. We go back, a few decades, David Carver. Welcome to the program, man.
Well, listen, I appreciate the invite to come in and chat with you, and especially see you again. It's been a while, and yeah, we've had a few experiences, including that softball going through your window.
Oh my God. We were just chatting before. The only thing we never discussed was the fact that happened. Yeah. And you were there, lickety split, took care of the vehicle. Yeah. The softball took out the back window of my sports car when I was, yeah. And you were there sponsoring the team. God love you. Well, and you do a few other things other than that. But listen, David, before we get going here, before we get started on down the road of rock and roll and movie, you tell me about the Connie Carver Award and your sister Connie Carver. Just go right ahead.
Well, I appreciate you asking about that. So back in '74, my sister Connie, she was 13. I was 12 at the time, and we were vacationing in PEI, and she unfortunately was killed out riding her bike. And she went to McDonald Drive Junior High for grade 7. So that September, my dad, when we came home from PEI, my dad set up a scholarship for McDonald Drive Junior High in her memory. And at the time, it was like $500, and there were conditions on the donation, but it was basically use $400 to buy artwork for the school, and then the other $100 split between the male and female student in grade 7 who the teachers felt best exemplified Connie's personality and character. And over the years, we built up a massive art collection in the library there. It's probably worth a lot of money, but impressive pieces on top of that. And then at one point, we ran out of wall space, and then we came up with different ways to make the donation. Mm-hmm. And then became one year I went there. We've been doing it for 51 years, and my dad went the first year by himself to present it. And
your dad, Orrin, by the way, yes.
And then the next year when the June came along, he was going to present the award. I asked to go with him. And then the next year I asked to go with him, and I kept going with him. And then eventually at one point he said, David, why don't you just, take this over and you keep going? And I said I'd, be honored to. And so last year was the 50th anniversary, and this year was my 50th anniversary going. So I suppose.
What do you feel when you do that? I mean, does it get any easier? Is it just you love the fact that you can do this in her memory? And
I think, honestly, I'd need to sit down on a psychiatrist's couch with my friend Dr. Hugh McGuire to have that, to answer that. I guess I go for different reasons. One is, probably to remind myself to try to live, the most adventurous life I can, and in her honor.
Yeah, you've sort of done a bit of that.
Yeah, and every now and then I'll get up and speak to the students and just remind them to be safe in the summer. But the whole thing for me has become both about Connie, and if we had more time, you'd need to break out the tissues. But the compassion my parents exemplified for other people, including the guy who was driving the truck, the compassion they showed other people during their grief. Like there's a story of that would just rip your heart out there, and anyone who knows my parents would go, oh yeah, So it's about that too for me.
Yep. Well, I mean, the school obviously, shout out to McDonald Drive Junior High, and of course the kind of qualities, right? The cooperation with teachers, school spirit, kindness towards fellow students, all those basic structures of that. And, each student gets an award. I think it's like 1,500, with 750 retained by them, and the other 750 goes towards the chapter of the Kids Help Fund.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, we've now made it just whoever students want to donate to. And I just, on that note, part of the reason I go too is just to say to the winning students, listen, this is not your parents' money, so don't, if they tell you to put it in the bank, or this is your money to spend it however you want, because that's what my mom and dad would have wanted, and that's what Connie would have wanted.
Yeah, well, look, I'm glad we got to talk a bit about that.
Thank you for asking.
Very off the top, because that always comes first to mind, and I never know how to enter that conversation with you sometimes, because it's just so deeply personal.
Yeah, thank you.
But look, on to the things that she would have loved the fact that you were doing the adventurous person that you were. I wouldn't know where to start. Let's just, we're coming up to a short break, and I'm sure the boys are going to let us have you stick around for a couple minutes, because I really wanted you to talk about Connie, and that award. But let me just list off. I had a list, I think it was 51 concerts, shows that I was looking down through that you've produced over the years, but take me back to the beginning right now, just really quickly, and then we're going to take a short break and just get into a couple of great stories.
So I guess we could start with the Brats down at in Pleasantville at the Legion. Ray Abbott and Pat O'Reilly, Pat Mooney, Brett Baird, and Dave Abbott. One December during university, I became friends with them, and I thought, hey, I should promote a concert with you guys, an end of exam concert, and get all the university students out. And where should we do that? Where else but the Legion of Pleasantville? So we did a show with them, and I did a few other events with them. And at one point we were discussing me maybe managing them. And Ray said to me, he said, David, look, we're just a bunch of guys that like to have a few beer and play Beatles and Rolling Stones, and you can appreciate that.
Oh, I do.
And he said, you're destined for bigger, to make the impossible possible, and you got to do bigger things than just the Brats. So he kind of encouraged me, and that's kind of, I said this before to people, if you have any great memories of the shows that I brought in, or I've been part of your bucket list of seeing bands, you can give a tip of the hat to the Brats, because that's where it started.
Yeah, and we could get into, look, Tom Petty, Bob Dylan, Bon Jovi, Meatloaf, Tom Cochrane, America, and that's just like a small snippet of all the big shows. Then there was the Hawaiian Party at the Curling Club. That was really, for me, your coming of age.
Yeah, oh yeah, and it's funny how that came about, in the party in my backyard that my father didn't know about but came home for, and that's kind of how it started with that party, and that was kind of fun. And if I have a quick second, or you want to take it?
Go quick. Yes.
All right. So we have a party in my backyard, and my dad comes home the day of the party from PEI. It was in the summertime. And when it was all over, I told him about the party, and I said, but Dad, don't worry, the rugby team I'm playing on is going to do security. And he said, what's the name of that rugby team? And I said, oh, the Vandals. And he walked away from me and said, that's comforting.
Yeah.
And then when it was all over, he said, David, my father being the entrepreneur he said, David, you've got something here. If you're going to do this again, have it at someone else's house, or maybe rent out a place and charge people money to get in. And that's how the Hawaiian Party happened, and then the Brats, and then...
I was inspired by that because I had my 19th birthday party based on that theory.
Oh.
And I had rugby players be my doormen, and the parents went away for the weekend, and I got in a bit of trouble. Hey, we didn't destroy the house, but it was as responsible as it could get.
Oh, that's fun.
Let me see. Okay, so there's a couple of good stories I just want to get to. The Meatloaf one, the Screech-In, is classic. Let's just do you mind to hang on for a couple of minutes? Just a few more minutes after this, and we got a couple of calls that we'll get to afterward. But let's take a quick break. A couple of great stories, especially the Meatloaf one. People will remember that down at Kitty Vitty, but they won't know all the details of the behind the scenes. So we'll talk about that right after the break.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
And welcome back to the show. Back here with David Carver, promoter, producer, movie extraordinaire, producer, rock and roller, you name it. Okay, the best part of your gigs for me were always the stories. So let's get into a couple of quick ones because time is short. America.
Well, first, when you reflect back on the people that have helped you on your journey, America, VOCM actually promoted that show, and Joe Butler Jr. was my contact, and
that's fantastic.
So it's good to be home for that. So we're in Halifax, and for the first show, and my mom and a friend are going to drive over from PEI to see her son's first big concert tour. So I put her in the same hotel as the band, and the night of the show, the doors open, people are filing in, and then I hear someone say, and I hadn't met the band yet, and I hear someone say, "Are you David Carver?" And I turn around, and it's Jerry Beckley. And I go, yeah.
For people listening, who Jerry Beckley, of course.
The lead singer of the band.
Yep.
So I turn around and I go, "Oh, hi, Jerry. Yeah, I'm David. Nice to meet you." He goes, "Yeah, nice to meet you too. Listen, they won't let your mom and her friend in through the artist entrance backstage." And I said, "What?" He goes, "They won't let your mom and her friend in the artist entrance backstage." And I go, "Well, she has her tickets. Did she not tell them who?" "Hang on. How do you know my mom?" So my mom and her friend come out of the hotel lobby, and they see this bunch of guys piling into this van, and they hear someone say Halifax Metro Center. So they walk over and say, "Excuse me, are you guys going to the Metro Center?" And they're all looking at each other like, yeah, and it's the band. So they're like, yeah. And she's like, well, can we get a ride over with you? And they're like, yeah, I guess so. So
not knowing who she was.
Not knowing who she was, and her not knowing who they were. Yeah. So they're in the van, and Jerry tells me the story that, so your mom says to us, are you guys fans of the band? And Jerry's like, yeah, we're pretty big fans. And then Jerry says, what about you? And
Mom,
our
own music.
Yeah, and Mom's, what about you? And Mom says, well, we're not too familiar with their music, but my son's the promoter. So
that's a moment.
So then we get to St. John's, and of course, here it goes. So we have a party in my backyard where,
Yeah, of course.
And, Gary Haynes, the local legend in the restaurant.
Green Sleeves, Sundance.
Oh, geez, yeah. So I caught, I said, look, I'm going to I want to put on a spread. So we barbecued salmon for them. We had lobster, and apparently I spoke to Gary yesterday, and we had steaks. I don't remember that, but okay. Then we screeched them in in the backyard. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for anybody who wonders, when a band says thank you, St. John's, you're the best, we'll be back. Okay. Do they say that
usually
everywhere? Right. Yeah. Do they say that everywhere? Well, 15 years later, I'm in Santa Monica, and I run into Jerry and his wife and their son, and I walk right up to him and I say, David Carver, Newfoundland. That's all I say, okay? David Carver, promoter from Newfoundland. That's all I say. Before Jerry can say anything, his wife says, oh my God, they still talk about that trip to St. John's, Newfoundland.
We always believe they do, but you never know.
Well, they did. Yeah. Right? So
tell me Meatloaf, the Meatloaf story, the Screech-In story.
Okay,
for those who were at Kitty Vitty that year.
Okay. So when you're going to do something like that, you have to offer it to the headliner, which was Def Leppard. And I got about a quarter way through explaining it to their manager, and he's like, "Yeah, no, they've got their own kind of local reference." And I said, "Well, you don't mind if I take it to Meatloaf?" Sure. So Meatloaf was all in for it. To be honest with you, I gave him the Newfoundland sayings in advance. And I said, but don't worry, you'll nail it. So it comes time, just before the encore, he says, I feel like getting screeched in. The crowd goes crazy, 30,000 people. And I walk out with the bottle of Screech. And on the stage, and you'll appreciate this, on the stage is normally the set list. And next to the set list is the Newfoundland sayings written out so on the floor. Right? So I look at Meatloaf, and he's like a kid who got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. He's like, putting his head down. He's, oh, damn, I'm caught. And I stood on them, on the sheets, and I said, you got this. So we went through everything. And then when it came time, I said, now the last thing you have to do is, you have to have a relationship with a Newfoundlander. And someone from the Delta came out with holding a tray with two hands, and underneath the napkin was this massive cod. And I took it off and I had to hold it with two hands. And of course, Meatloaf, being theatrical like he is, he was like, waving his hands. I'm not doing it.
Hair going everywhere.
Right. And then walking up to the cod, about to kiss it, and then he walks away from it again. and he's like very theatrical, right? Yeah. And then Brian, 30,000 people, arms and fists in the air. Kiss that cod.
Kiss that cod.
30,000 people screaming that. And of course, him being theatrical, he grabbed it out of my hands, and there was like cod goo coming out, and there was a little tongue sticking out, and it was just really, and he just drove it into his face and kissed it. And Brian, I'll never forget the wave of energy that hit that. I'm not exaggerating. You can feel the energy from 30,000 people just going crazy. And then he goes into Bat Out of Hell. What a moment.
And people who were there, me included, will never forget it.
Oh, I had to ask if somebody listening might know this. So Def Leppard had a local reference, which I know what it was. But I don't want to say, because if they did it, then I don't mind discussing it. But if anyone knows what their local reference was, they had something hanging in the ceiling, which they were going to drop down. So if anyone knows what that was, and if they actually did that, I don't remember. I didn't see it. Someone could call in and let me know. That'd be great.
David, I wish we had more time. I will say this. You'll remember this. Kim Stockwood. Remember Kim Stockwood? You Jerk? Today is the 30th, or yesterday was the 30th anniversary of the release of Jerk.
Yeah. We had her open for Van Morrison. Yeah. No, she's a great talent.
Yeah. And we worked together, all that crew, back in the Village Mall back in the day. So it's pretty wild to see how that went. One quick one. Tom Petty.
Ooh, I had to be quick.
Yeah,
Halifax
true.
Metro Center, the day before the show, we load in, and that morning, there's you usually get one event manager out of the three that are there. You don't care which one it was because they're all great. Yep. So you don't even ask, right? So the morning before the show, we load in, and there's three of them, and I said, which one of you guys do I get today? And one of the guys said, David, the word came down from the boss. This is a big show for David Carver. All hands on deck for David Carver. It wasn't Tom Petty's in the building. It was, this is a big show for David Carver. You know, the morning of the show, same thing. Three of them are there. I said, well, which one do I get for the day? Same thing. Big show for David Carver. All hands on deck for David Carver. The band's tour manager came up to me after and said, clearly this venue respects you and they appreciate you. So
well, it's the impression you make, right, every time, and you know how important it is to make those impressions and go out of your way to take care of the people that you bring in, right? Local promoters, so Pete, Quinton, others know, they all know how to do that, give them that unique experience for Newfoundland and Labrador that they won't forget.
Now I got to tell you about St. John's if I can.
Okay, go.
All right, so people don't realize, but those dates were the only dates in North America. Tom brought his equipment, his crew, his band, all of it. He brought it all from LA, trucked it all in for Halifax and 2 shows in St. John's. So after the night of the first show, I'm standing on the side of the stage when Tom comes off the stage and he goes, wow. And he walks away. And I'm thinking, okay, was that good wow or bad wow? Right? And then about 20 minutes later, I get a call from the agent. And I've never had a phone call from an agent.
You don't really want a call from an agent during a show.
So I answer it, and he goes, David, I just spoke to Tom's manager. I'm like, oh, geez, what happened, right? And he said, Tom said that was the best show he's done in about 20 years. And I said, well, I told you, the Newfoundland audiences, like, they appreciate the effort and expense and time it takes for these big acts to come here, and you'll feel it. And he felt it that night.
We truly do, and you know that, and we always feel like that. We always feel like they get a different experience when they get here, but to hear it come right from them on the spot, first hand. I mean, like, no one's going to call you like that and make that up. You may say it in passing, and that just could be a throwaway. But he goes out of his way to say that.
And just quickly, lastly on that is when we put the show on sale in the December before, I remember going down.
What year was that again?
2012. Right. So December 2011, we put the show on sale, and I go down to mile 1 at the time, and there's Big Tom in the lineup to buy tickets.
Big Tom, the boys,
And I looked at him. I said, what are you doing here? I said, your radio station is promoting this. I'm sure that we can make sure you get tickets. And here's what he said. He goes, no, David. He goes, I want to be down here with the peeps, having this full experience, the lining up of, the night before, the buying the tickets and getting ready for the show. And
that's a Big Tom moment.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus! I get goosebumps. Yep. What a great guy! And unfortunately, he passed away that April, so he didn't.
We don't forget him here.
I know, and that's why I wanted to mention it.
Shed's out front with his face name all over. Big Tom Shed.
Yeah.
David, just quickly. So you're in LA these days. Just what are you doing? You got doing some movie producing. The Mo Norman
story.
Documentary.
Yeah, it's a great It's a story about a Canadian, but it's a globally resonating story. The Mo Norman. The character, he's a great character, and the character of Mo Norman is an award-nominating character. The story itself is an award-nominating character, and after much expense and time, much to the chagrin of my bank and my credit card company, who aren't too happy with me now, but they will be when it grosses $100 million in the theaters. But it's an award-nominating script now, and the budget is $20 million, and I've got $10 million raised, and we're still out looking for the other 10. And I've been offered to sell it to make it a sort of a lower budget Canadian movie. And I can't do it. I can't. This is a worldwide, globally resonating story and character, and the actors I already have attached in LA are they're A-list actors, and we can't get it done for $10 million. It's a $20 million movie, and I'm going to get it done, and then I'm going to redefine, like I believe I did in the concert business. I'm going to redefine how to release movies in theaters, and it's going to be a blockbuster. I
don't put any doubt in that. David, look, only at the time here, people want to see the Mo Norman. What website? Where can they go just to get the story?
Mo the Movie, MOE, mothemovie.com.
Got it. David Carver, Thanks, man, for
Thank
coming
you,
in. It's
Brian.
great to see you so many years under the bridge, but it's great that we're both still 6 feet above, or in our case, 5 and 6.
5'8".
5 and 6, 5'8".
5'9" on the radio.
5'8" on the radio. David Carver, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Brian.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
Let's go to Bill on line number 1. Bill, you're on the air.
Yes, I'd like to first say hello to Alistair in Burgeo.
Sure. Alistair, if you're listening.
Yes, good enough. And what I call about is there's a lot about road safety and highway safety. Mm-hmm. And I guess it's always a topic. But I think the problem is that there's a lack of police presence on the highways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like for example, I sat down this morning at Tim Hortons at 7:30 to 8:30 kind of thing, which is rush hour, and when most people are driving. And there's, I'm not going to say where it was or anything like that, but there was 3 constables sat next to me for a full hour. So so that maybe they should have been on the highway. Everyone. So what happens if they're not there? Then people take it onto themselves. They speed, or they tailgate. Mm-hmm. Or they race through construction zones, or they frustrate their other drivers when they disobey, like zipper line merge situations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think somebody called this program a couple months ago and talked about the importance of presence of authorities, especially police on the highways. That's their job.
Even if they're just parked along the side of the highway sometimes, Bill. And Patty said it, we all agree, nothing slows you down quicker. You see a police car, no matter what, you're tapping the brakes. You're pulling it back, right? No matter what you're doing, even if you're doing nothing.
Well, yeah, that's just the presence, right? It's just the old halo effect, and I don't mean aside on, just drive through. Drive through. Keep driving through, especially rush hours. What excuse is there for 3 officers to be sitting down drinking coffee for a full hour during rush hour? It's so obvious to me. Am I missing something here?
Well, no, probably not.
Am I wrong to point that out? Although nobody wants to, criticize authority, God forbid, but so who's, someone has to do it, and I hate having to do it, but we all drive on the highway, and people are passing us and cutting us off and tailgating us, stuff like that.
Yep.
People are paid to make sure those things don't happen.
I hear you, Bill. And the other thing is, some people will just say that you don't know what those particular police officers. I'd say this just strictly as a devil's advocate. You never know what division they're in, whether or not they're traffic enforcement, whether or not they've just done a 7-hour investigation and now they're having. You really don't know in their world. I know the visual of 3 officers sitting in a coffee shop for more than an hour, doesn't do you any good. You just think, they're not doing anything. Who knows where they came from, where they're going? That's all I'll say for their sake, just to put that out there.
Yeah, well, I'm putting it out there that they sat there and it's not the first time I've seen it either.
Nope.
And when people are saying, how come there's no police on the road? Look, if you're going to take a coffee break, fine. No one begrudges anybody a coffee break or a lunch break or anything like that. But,
no way. Sure.
That's just poor management, that time of the day, and there's certain times is probably between 7 and 9 in the morning, mm-hmm. and then also between 4 and 6 in the evening. Though everyone knows that those are busy times on the highways, and that's Absolutely. When we need. That's when we need the people go on your route, go to the end, turn around and come back, do it for an hour or so,
I gotcha.
It might slow a lot of people down. It might save a lot of lives.
Yep.
It might save a lot of damage. It might save, reduce our insurance rates.
Sure.
And all the rest of it,
Yep.
It's so I really hate this, but I've seen it so many times, and
no, I understand.
Yeah. So
I'm going to try to squeeze one more in, Bill, but absolutely, look, points taken. Just because I got a minute left, I got to run. I'm going to try to squeeze in one more quick call on an update, if that's okay.
Have a good weekend.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
We were talking the other day about the elevator at Pasadena Crescent that was out in one of the buildings. Ed, you got a quick update for us?
Oh, yeah. I got a quick update. I was contacted by The users are on Tuesday.
I wish I had more than I wish I had more than a minute, but just see if you can go for it. Go for it.
Basically, the building was recently purchased by a different individual itself, a different company. They know of the problem itself. They have physically ordered, paid for, and assigned an elevator company to completely replace the entire elevator system itself in the building. Now remember, they got to make the elevator first.
Yes.
So they got to rip the old one out. So the residents will probably have a brand new elevator system in there before Christmas.
Wicked. Okay, listen, I got to go, but thanks for that, and let's follow up on it, only because of the time. Thanks for that, and that'll be music to the ears of them. Thanks again.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Whew, okie doke, just long enough to say, right, Nevaeh's Lemonade Stand tomorrow, Double Ice Complex in Paradise, 1 to 4. Telly 10 is on Sunday, and good luck to the Shalloway Youth Choir, who are on their way to Beaumont Hamel for July 1st. And yeah, I'll be there too. So I'm off for a few days next week. And my good friend and former journalist friend, Darren Bent, will be back here filling in for a few days while I traverse across the pond. So everyone drive safely, arrive alive. VOCM cares.